Welcome to Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben, where each week it's my great pleasure to meet fascinating people who tell us about the challenges they're facing with their work-life balance. I'm Dr. Ben Sinclair, and I wonder, do you struggle with your priorities? On the one hand, focusing on your work, business or career, namely your wealth, or on the other hand, looking after your health, which is so important. Over the past 20 years as a GP, I've seen many people spending too long on their screens, cutting corners on their sleep, diet or exercise. The result? Their work life's going well, but their health can suffer. I sincerely hope that my guests' personal and professional experiences may help you to improve your own health and life. Welcome to Health versus Wealth with me, Dr. Ben Sinclair, and today we are joined by Charmain Leek, an audiologist who's a fascinating life story. And I'm so excited to have her on the show. Charmain, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Really nice to have you here. And I know family life is important to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, tell me more about your story of how you got into audiology, because I know there was a family connection there, wasn't there?
Yeah, I trained many years ago at Worcester Royal Infirmary. I went in at the age of 18 and worked for the NHS in Worcester, Gloucestershire and Bristol.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sat my private exams and moved over to the dark side. But my granny was deaf, and my mum thought that all mums were deaf.
Really?
Yeah. So my granny had 5 children. My mum was the eldest, and she passed away 4 years ago. But she couldn't have hearing aids under the NHS until she'd had a 3rd child.
Why was that?
It's just the rules then. I mean, she would have suffered from what you would see in your clinic, glue ear.
Gosh.
But there were no antibiotics in those times.
Wow.
And her mum, my granny's mum, died. She drowned herself, which would have been postnatal depression, yeah.
Oh gosh, they're quite a hard start.
Yeah. So she, and obviously when she wore hearing aids, they would be the big battery pack ones.
And then the big black box that people sort of wore. I've seen that in films.
Yeah, body worn we used to call them.
Right.
We were still fitting them when I trained, in the 1980s. But yeah, so, and then Granny's hearing aids weren't good enough, so every time Granny needed a new hearing aid, all the children and the grandchildren, we didn't have any treats. It would be the family would club together to buy her hearing aid.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. So it was, but she only knew I got into audiology literally for about a month and a half, and then she passed away.
Oh.
But I'm glad she knew, and
that's
she's
so
still with
special,
me now,
isn't it? It must be lovely that she knew that you were, carrying on helping people with those sort of problems.
Yeah. I was young, but I loved doing what I did, and obviously I got a bit more career focused and moved to a senior position in Cheltenham, and I loved that job. And then finally another role in Bristol, but that time I wasn't really enjoying it.
Right.
And so I got to the stage I kept thinking, well, I'm not really enjoying this. What shall I do instead? I didn't want to retrain. And then just by chance I saw a job advertised in Gloucestershire for an independent hearing care practice. So I moved there, sat my private exams, and then the rest is history.
Wow.
Nearly 20 years ago I started on my own because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew how my practice was going to be. I didn't want it to be big and showy. I just wanted it to be just me. So that's 20 years on. That's where I am.
Wow. So you really had quite a clear vision of what you wanted to do.
Yes, yeah. Well, I actually got pregnant with my eldest daughter, and then I started on my own. So literally for that first...
Interesting timing.
Wow. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And I was doing a lot of access to work stuff. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it was a scheme through Job Centre Plus.
Yes.
And so I would be visiting people in their workplace, making recommendations for hearing aids, any additional equipment, and then going out and fitting them. So I was all over Gloucestershire, Herefordshire and Birmingham. And at the end of my pregnancy, my dad decided I wasn't allowed to drive anymore.
Right.
But after being in a car with him for a week, I told him I wasn't working anymore.
It's always hard, that parent-child relationship in driving, isn't it? Sometimes goes very wrong.
And then I had Holly, and my husband took my phone off me for a week. And then I went back to work.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
But I timed my children around each seasonal break, so literally went into Christmas, so it was quite good, really.
Amazing timing. And I understand you're a baker and you've been busy baking cakes.
Yes, with the help of my youngest daughter, actually. She's a lot better than me. and she's a lot better at decorating. Both my daughters are really arty. I've got no skill there at all. But yeah, we do cook a lot at home.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Now, you're coming up for a major anniversary, I hear, with the business.
Yeah, 20 years in April. So hopefully we'll be having some celebrations, and I've got quite a good network through a group that I work with, Network BNI. Am I allowed to mention that? Yeah.
You are, yeah,
BNI.
absolutely. We're both members, and hello to any BNI listeners out there.
Hi. So since joining BNI, which is sort of I'm in my 4th year, I've had a massive support network for people that know all about my business, and they find it interesting, whereas, to me, it's just what I do.
That's it. Well, I think we all have our own specialties, and no one will know exactly the life of an audiologist and how that actually works. Now, I know people get funny things stuck in their ears, don't they? What's the worst thing that you've had to pull out of somebody's ear? I tend to pull out the backs of earrings. I've had one girl call me and saying, I think I might have got one in my ear. And it was a Saturday evening. I said, I'll come to work and I'll have a look for you. Yeah. And when I looked in the ear, it hadn't just fallen in there. It was there for a long time. It was covered in wax. Oh. And I just said, you're so lucky it didn't rot. Gosh. So yeah, earrings, coffee stirrers. So people shoving things down there.
Yeah.
Now, there's a Yorkshire phrase, I train in Yorkshire, that says you shouldn't put anything smaller than your elbow in your ear.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you follow that, and do you give that advice out?
I do.
Clear here.
But the thing is, most people don't know what their ears look like. So when you're in your practice and you're looking in someone's ear, you're looking to see the eardrum.
Of course.
You should have 2 bends in your ears to protect your eardrum. Mm-hmm. But what I often find when I'm doing earwax removal is I use magnifying loops, so they're really strong microscopes to look down at a patient's ear. And quite often when I'm doing it, once I've removed the wax, I can just see the eardrum straight ahead. Okay. And this is why I say to patients, do not put anything down your ear, because you could perforate your eardrum.
And that can be a really serious problem, can't it?
Yeah.
I almost perforated my own eardrum, actually, in a diving accident. I was 60 feet down the Great Barrier Reef, and my one of my air pressure hairs blew, and all the air went out of my tank, and I had to ascend very quickly, and I had a really bad pain in my left ear. And ever since then, it's always been a little bit dodgier than my right ear. Yeah. So maybe had some barrow trauma or some injury there. Yeah. But the ear's very sensitive, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I've got a patient who I was seeing at his home, and his son was over from Australia, big burly rugby player, and he said, I've only got hearing in one ear. And I said, well, that's weird, because usually if you have got sort of like single-sided deafness, it has to be checked to find out what it could be.
Exactly. It could be something important. Yeah.
And he said, no, when I was a teenager, I had a cotton bud in my ear, and my girlfriend hugged me.
Oh no.
And he was in hospital for 2 months.
Oh gosh.
And I just said, did you dump?
Do they stay together?
No.
Oh dear. Now, it's really interesting you talk about sort of losing hearing, because I actually lost a little bit of hearing during long COVID in my left ear. Again, I think it might be the sensitive one after this injury. Now, I think I had exceptional hearing before COVID, and I had a hearing test, and it's come back to apparently what is a normal level. Yeah. But I definitely find it harder to listen out of my left ear. And in your line of work, you must come across people whose lives have been transformed by getting a hearing aid. Yeah. I have a new patient who lived in Birmingham, came to see me during Christmas last year with lots of wax. His son brought him in to see me. He'd just moved down to Worcester because his wife had passed away. He's from Erdington. So I've got to know him. I fitted him with new hearing aids. He's now in a care home, but he doesn't need to be there. It's just really his mobility. Okay. For him, he hit 100 in October, which was fantastic. What a milestone. He was in the RAF, and they did a flyover for him for his 100th. That's amazing, isn't it? It was amazing. He was in the press, and I was like, that's my patient. So for him, having him hearing for his 100th birthday was just the icing on a cake for me. An example I've seen is a relative who really became quite detached from the family life. Almost, we were worried that he might be developing dementia, or because he became really inappropriate, stopped really sort of, his behaviour became different. He wasn't in touch with what was happening. And then we suddenly realised it was the hearing that was the problem. Yeah. And he got this amazing new hearing aid, and suddenly he rejoined the community. Yeah, it's really isolating.
And sometimes the person doesn't realise that they are missing out. It's only when the family say, look, you're not joining in, or you speak over people because you're not keeping up with the speed of the conversation. What you'll find is the person that has got the hearing loss, whether it's granny, grandpa, great aunt, or whatever, they can only concentrate for about 20 minutes, and after that they just sit back because it's just too much. It's too hard to follow things. Yeah, because you're literally struggling to pick up voices coming from both sides, background noise as well, and it's just easy just to sit back, because sometimes people can be cruel and say, well, laugh when they ask the same question, and it's just like, we've already said that. And I used to be like that with my dad. Now he's gone, I think, oh, Charmain, you had no patience for your dad. But, that was me with my father and daughter. But in my role, I'll be saying to patients, well, actually, those situations where you've sort of removed yourself, you can go back in, you can follow that conversation, you can go to the pub. I have patients that say, well, it's pointless me going there because I can't join in, so I won't bother. So this is where the hearing aids can actually bring you back into the world, mixing with people. And most of them now come with an app, so you can select a program to suit the situation you're in.
That's right.
And also streaming of phones, iPads, podcasts.
So people could be listening to this podcast on their hearing aid headphones in inner ears.
Yes, yeah.
Which is it's fantastic. In fact, my father-in-law has one, and somebody's so loud that we can hear the music that's playing in his ears when he's sat there on the outside, which is a strange thing. And I have to say, he has this great restaurant mode on his app that he can turn down background noise, which means that he can have a better conversation. And I kind of wish there was one that, sometimes when you're really tired and the kids are really noisy and everything's clattering, you just want to sort of dial out the background noise and just talk normally. I'm almost looking forward to getting that back, because I feel this ear, my left ear, is still a little bit irritable.
Yes, yeah.
From this injury or whatever it was that I had with long COVID. What do you think is going on with long COVID and hearing?
I've got my suspicions, but nothing has been come out. I mean, it'll take years for them to produce papers to say what it has caused. But I notice I have a lot of patients that have middle ear fluid. They come in thinking they've got earwax. No wax is obvious. I can show with a camera so they know there's nothing down the ear canal. Yeah. But what we often find is they have got some type of middle ear issue, whether it's fluid in the middle ear, whether it's eustachian tube malfunction where it's stuck together, patulous.
And that's the tube that drains the ear back to the throat.
Yeah. In fact, I had a manager of a care home that I go to in Worcester. She's a lovely lady, and she had a really, really bad, I think it was COVID, but it affected her head, her chest, her throat, and I was just about to fit a hearing aid last week, and suddenly she had a steam in the bathroom, and it all flushed out.
Wow.
But yeah.
And what, it all just went away?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, I have a lot of patients that have that. They have tinnitus.
Yes, tinnitus is massive with long COVID. I come across so many people with that.
Yeah, and if you're not hearing as well, you hear the tinnitus more than you hear the sounds around you. So you feel very... And if you imagine, if you've got wax in your ear, if you put your fingers in your ear, you hear everything in your head more.
Yes.
It's called the Lombard effect, where everything's all enclosed. It's
like being underwater.
Yes, yeah. And that's where people sort of say, I can't stand it, and hoping that I can get the wax out, and it's not there. So it's then go back to your GP, see if he can give you any antibiotics or decongestants, and I always say steaming as well with sort of albus oil. But you've got to do it. The look on patients' faces when you say they haven't got any wax in there. And I often do a hearing test then, just to actually show them what when you have got a hearing loss that affects the outer or the middle ear. It's called conductive, as you probably know. Yeah. So from that, I can see if there's an air bone gap, as from bone conduction to headphones. So it's a way of saying, well, actually, no, you are right. Your hearing is down temporarily.
So you can confirm their symptoms. It's so important when people come in with symptoms to validate those things if we can find them, because I think so many people with long COVID feel completely invalidated.
Yes.
Ranging from politicians to other people who say it doesn't exist. Yeah. And even doctors, I confess, haven't been good at realising that long COVID is such a huge issue. During your career, what's been the sort of the change in technology from the boxes that we were talking about earlier through to now?
It's massively changed recently. With hearing aids I'm fitting are measuring someone's steps, they're measuring their engagement with people talking, which is really good for people that, let's say if you've got someone who's elderly and they're not mixing, I can measure it. I can say, well, you've been sort of like 40% of the time you've been in a group situation, you've been talking. That's really good, because that's where, you'd step away. I've got a gentleman at a care home who now, because he's motivated, he told me on Saturday he'd done 6,000 steps the day before.
Right.
But it was more about getting him to walk around the home or even go out. He's allowed to go out for a walk. I can see that he's mixing as well. So it just helps with the whole package of not just hearing, it's how you react to sounds and mixing with people, because it's so isolated for someone if they haven't got anybody around them. So I find that really, really helpful. Also, they can tell, I can message a family member if they've had a fall.
Oh, wow.
A bit like your watch.
So does it give you or the family a remote warning if they've stopped moving?
Yes, yeah. Well, I would find that when I go into the software, but things like a fall, it will notify the family. It is good.
It's fantastic. Wow, I think the combination of things these days is so clever.
We can also remotely program hearing aids now as well. So that came about just before COVID, but great when COVID happened, because I'd got patients that couldn't hear. We'd book an appointment. I'd be on their phone and they'd be on my laptop, and I could just make adjustments to their hearing aids.
Literally, you just... Wow.
I could be in Scotland, they could be in Australia, but I could still do it.
And you do home visits as well, don't you?
Yes, yeah. I've got quite a lot of luxury care homes. I see a lot of patients at home, so I travel over the West Midlands, Worcestershire, Herefordshire, Gloucestershire. So I sort of pick my days for where I'm going.
I find it really special to be in someone's home, but also there's that connection with the clinician and seeing the wider area that really adds value to that care. Do you mostly do stuff in homes, or is it sort of a bit of remote as well?
50-50
50-50. Yeah, we're about the same.
Yeah,
interesting. And I think since the pandemic, I was surprised how much has gone both sort of remote, but then how much people still crave that personal connection.
Yeah, definitely. I think had COVID not happened, we wouldn't be working the way we are now, but I think I like to go into a patient's home, because they might be saying, well, I can't hear the TV. If I go and look at the TV and it's not working properly, I've got a lady whose phone, she said she couldn't hear on the phone, and when I went in and tested her phone, it wasn't working.
Right.
So things like that.
So it was actually an error rather than her hearing. And
you look at someone's listening situations as well. So if they say, like, I can't hear my wife, and she's wait, you won't hear at that distance. You've got to be near. Or the bugbear of someone talking from the kitchen and you're in the lounge. I don't hear then. So if my husband calls me, I've got my head in the washing machine, I'm not going to hear what someone's saying in the lounge.
Exactly. And we've found that with the rise of awareness of things like ADHD and neurodiversity, I think more people are becoming aware they have to communicate face to face to get more of that expression, body language into the communication. And actually, I think oftentimes we don't hear when we're communicating in a lazy way or shouting, so we're going, right, come over here, whatever, and they're in another room, so they don't respond. I know, my mum took me for a hearing test when I was 10, I think, because I wasn't responding to saying, can you come and do the washing up? But I was like, well, probably, that was probably a good reason not to attend. There wasn't a lot of motivation there.
Well, I just find it, with my youngest daughter, when I'm talking to her and she's not listening to me, she's got her headphones in. She's always got headphones in now. Now,
tell me about headphone use, because I see so many younger people walking around with headphones in 24/7. I know some of them are just using them to block out external sound or to sort of not have people bother them. But is that harming people's hearing?
Depends on the loudness of it. So you could have, I quite often, one of my patients who's actually in BNI, he used to go to a lot of concerts, so he has now got a hearing loss, noise induced. And we tried hearing aids about 2 years ago and he wasn't ready for it. He's now on them and he said it's changed his life. One of the things I often find is that you get a lot more wax, because the ear thinks, foreign body, so it produces more wax.
So you're blocking the ear canal and you get more wax production?
Yes. It's the same with hearing aids. If a patient wears hearing aids, we know that they're going to produce more wax. So we have to, I've got patients that I see every 6 months, every 12 months, one every 2 months, because they build up so much wax.
So if someone's got a hearing aid, they should have their ears checked regularly to make sure they're not a build-up of wax affecting the hearing as well?
Yeah, because if it plugs up the hearing aid, it's not going to work.
It's not going to help, is it?
Not at all.
And how loud is too loud? With, let's say, are in-ear earphones worse than headphones? Or I always think, I always try and have the lowest volume possible, but What would you recommend with in-ear headphones, for example?
You've normally got noise cancelling on them anyway,
yes.
So it is going to protect your hearing to a certain degree.
So noise cancelling protects your hearing?
If it's sort of like certain, background noise sounds.
Right.
But obviously, with hearing, when you're listening to music through headphones, I suppose it's up to you to monitor the levels that you have it at.
Is there a benefit of wearing headphones for noise cancellation if you're just walking around, for example? Is that helpful?
I don't think so. I don't think you're safe when you can't hear what's going on around you.
I worry when cyclists are going along with headphones in, and I think I'm a cyclist, and I just think I use my hearing all the time as well as my vision to make sure I know where I am when cars come up on the inside. When I pull out of my drive, it's quite tight. I actually open the windows and listen for cars.
And don't forget, we've got electric cars now.
And they're making some spaceship noises that are harder to hear, aren't they?
Well, the lane that I live in, when I'm going down the lane in the morning, you'll have someone stood in the middle of the road walking their dog. My car's electric, and I know they've got headphones in. And I inch round them, and then I look at them, and they go like that.
And they get a shock.
Yeah. Don't walk in the middle of the road.
Exactly. We could have some kind of tech that maybe use Bluetooth to send them a warning in their headphones that a car was approaching.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Patent I should patent that. Elon, right, we're there. I'm going to patent that one. Thank you. So you're a busy working lady. You're running Clear here. You're baking. What's your lifestyle like? How do you support yourself, Charmain?
It's got easier now my daughters are older because they don't need me so much. Right. So for me, I'll pick Daisy up this afternoon and then I'll go back to work. But I don't mind doing it because it's my business. If someone else asked me to do it for their business, I might not want to do it. But because it's mine, I'm sort of making the most of being able to work more because the kids are grown up. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's one benefit of running your own business, isn't it? Is that you actually can balance work and life. Now, the show is called Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben. I'm really interested in how you balance your work and your life. I mean, sleep is so important. How much sleep are you getting? What are you eating? Are you getting breaks in the day?
I need to get 8 hours sleep. If I don't, I'm no good to anybody. So by the end of the week, I know I've got to have a lie-in. In terms of, I don't tend to sort of book lunch spaces because I'll end up putting a patient in for an appointment. But that's fine for me. And like I said, I have lots of fruit in my car, apples rolling around.
Just some feedback for the listeners. Apples are great to snack on. They've got some fruit sugar in, but they've also got fibre, and they keep you awake better than coffee. So actually, it's a really good choice.
I didn't know that.
There we go. So you learn something new every day on Health versus Wealth podcast. What about exercise? Do you exercise?
I haven't been to the gym recently. I do swim, but I have got a huge dog, an Irish setter, who is about 20 months old. So this morning I was walking him at 6 o'clock in the morning in the dark. I don't really want to walk him at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd rather be in my bed. But he makes me get up. He makes me take him out. I know when I get in this evening, I've got to walk him rather than get home and sit and watch TV. So it does work. And that's the thing you're hearing the news about for people that are introverted or they're not mixing or the mental health that low, just getting out of bed.
Yeah. And they say that people who have a dog are far more likely to keep going because the dog gets you up.
Yeah.
And the other sad statistic is that if you don't replace the dog when the dog passes away, often people will die within 6 months of their dog dying if they're in their 70s or 80s because they stop exercising. So I always think getting a dog, if you can have a dog, not everyone can, but if you can, it's a great way to get out there. And we're into the winter months, so that sort of seasonal affective disorder thing is a challenge. You're getting up and getting out there. In a sense, it overcomes that activation energy that you need to actually keep going.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Have you had other setters? Is that your favourite?
This is our first, actually. We had a beagle before, and he was mine, really. So we lost him when he was 14, yeah. And so my husband's idea, I'd said no more dogs.
Right.
Because I was the only one that walked him.
You were the walker, right?
We'll walk him, the new one. You will walk him. No, I'm walking him. My husband did, but his work's changed now. So, yeah. But I'm tempted for another one now as well.
Now, would you get another beagle?
I would love another beagle.
Yeah. Now, I mean, beagles being actually sort of bred for hunting, they're pretty energetic, aren't they?
Yeah. The reason why I had a beagle is my granny used to live in Malvern which is where I went to primary. And just over in the other side of the hill, the coal side, there was a lab for animal testing.
Oh.
And it was beagles.
Right.
So I always used to hear the beagle bay, which is the howl that they do.
Oh, gosh.
So, it's not there anymore now.
Yeah.
But, that was...
So you like the howl... Did your dog howl, your beagle?
Yeah. He was so loud, and so our front garden's really big, and people walk past our house dog walking. The amount of times that he used to run up and down the thing and jump up at the gate, and people jumping out their skin. But he was known by everybody because he was a thief as well. But
he was a thief. What did he steal?
Everything, take money out of handbags.
Really?
Yeah.
So he was a pickpocket dog.
Yeah. Whereas the Irish setter's eaten 4 sets of my reading glasses, 2 sets of Apple headphones.
Oh gosh. So more expensive than just the food.
Yeah, really expensive dog.
That's quite scary to do, isn't it? I have a cat at the moment. I'm trying to get a dog because I think it'd be great for us. And I used to suffer from, sort of winter, slow down SAD. I think now I'm on, a good diet, good exercise regime, and vitamin D. I have less of a problem. But I still think it would be great to be accompanied by a dog on my morning run because we live near a forest, and I like to go out running. And like you, I like to start the day by sort of getting out there.
Yeah.
So I often drop my kids off at the bus stop, and then I'll run back through the forest. But it'd be great to have some company.
You talk to people as well, though. When you're walking, you meet people, same people usually every day.
You have those connections, and it's funny how just a nod becomes a chat. And I'll often stop. The problem is sometimes when I'm running, I'm trying to kind of trade for something, so I can't stop. But if I'm feeling like I'm on top of it, I'll stop and have a chat with someone. Or often, dogs are a great way to meet people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And the amount of times I've stopped and actually started chatting to the dog first.
Oh, we know dogs' names, not owners' names.
It's funny, isn't it? So, I love that. So, how do you balance the stresses of business, family, and all these other things?
How do I balance it? I just do. It just happens. It's life, and I'm not looking at retiring. I don't want to retire because I work for myself.
No, I don't believe in retirement either. I think we need to have meaningful activity, whatever that is.
I do sometimes have patients that, because most of the hearing aids I fit, they have a 5-year guarantee. So when they buy their hearing aids, it's all the aftercare that I give. So I'm not saying every time you see me, I'm going to charge you £60. It is the life of the hearing aid. And I have in the past had patients say to me, well, what happens if you die?
Oh,
I'm just
gosh. We need a succession
I don't plan on it, but yeah.
So I guess there's a big relationship you've built up there with your clients over the years.
Yeah, and that's the hard bit of my job is losing patients, because a lot of my patients are elderly.
Yes.
And that's the thing that can really sometimes I'm just like,
And I think as a trusted visiting sort of practitioner, you almost become part of the furniture. Almost part of the family, don't you?
Yeah.
And you have, I have to refuse sort of, 10 cups of tea and 10 Kit Kats a day if I'm not careful. I used to have an old lady who would come in and sort of feed me chocolates, and I suddenly realised that she was feeding me. I had to stop this. I was ballooning, and in the end, I had to so politely say that I decided to go on a diet, and therefore I didn't want any more.
You should have said you're a diabetic.
That would be even better. I couldn't lie, but I was on a diet, so I needed to lose that extra chocolate weight. But she worked in the Nestle factory, so she had all these sort of massive bulk bags of stuff that, in the end, I passed them on to the practice. We all had them.
I did used to have a patient who worked at Cadbury's in Birmingham. He's not with us anymore, but that was great going up to Cadbury's because my girls were little then, and he'd give me a load of chocolate for the girls to take home.
That's great. Well, Charmain, it's been so interesting talking today. I think what's come out of it is a real connection with people. Would you say that drives you? Because it does seem to be a powerful force in your life.
Yeah. I can't let someone down. So, literally.
It must give you a really good feeling knowing that you're enabling people where they'll be present and be able to hear.
Hopefully.
That's lovely. Well, look, it's been so nice having you on today. I want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I hope you have a safe journey home.
Thank you.
So I do hope you enjoyed today's episode of Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben. And I hope it may help you improve your life and health. You can also take one easy step by achieving that right now by subscribing free on your usual podcast platform. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me on podcast@drfinlays.co.uk. I hope you'll join me again, but for now it's goodbye from me, Dr. Ben.